Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this multi-location meeting of the Environment, Regeneration and Street Scene Services. If you can just bear with us a second. Sorry about that, alarm's going off for trials. I'll start again. Good morning and welcome to the multi-location meeting of the Environment, Regeneration and Street Scene Services Scrutiny Committee on the 19th of July 24. I am Councillor Tim Bowen and I will be chairing the meeting this morning. A few house rules, please. Could you make sure your phones are switched to silent for the duration of the meeting? In addition, when asked to raise your hand, if members are virtually viewing this meeting, could you raise your electronic hand? And for members in the council chamber, just raise your hand. For the process of declarations, I would like to confirm that we have scrutinised item 5A and 5B from the Cabinet Forward Work Programme, as well as the annual report. Now I will move on to declarations. Agenda item 2. Are there any declarations of interest, please?
I see no declarations of interest, Chair.
Thank you. Agenda item 3, minutes of previous meeting. You will see from the minutes attached on pages 5 to 50 of the agenda pack. If you feel these are accurate and recording of the meeting, can I please have the proposer and the seconder to approve the minutes?
I move, Chair.
Thank you. And Councillor Davis, thank you.
I'll second. Diolch.
Thank you, Councillor Davis.
Item 4, this report is on... Oh, sorry. If members do not indicate to the contrary, then I will take it that this recommendation is approved.
I see no indications to the contrary, Chair. Councillor Rosalind Davis, just to check, I'm assuming that's just the legacy hand and that you've not changed your mind. No, I can see you shaking your head. Excellent. Therefore, Chair, the minutes have been approved.
Okay, right. Part 1, item 5, to consider items from the Cabinet Forward Work Programme. Right, okay. Item 5A, Part Night Street Lighting Pilots Report, pages 69 to 82. I'd like to fetch in, first of all, Cabinet Member Scott Jones.
Thank you very much, Chair, and good morning, everyone. Can I say how delighted I am to be here before you this morning, and again, thanks very much for your invitation. I think it'll be worthwhile me giving a little bit of background to why the report is here before us this morning. So just in summary, first and foremost, and of course, if there's any technical questions from members, I'm sure our officers are here to answer. And can I take the opportunity to thank Steve and Nathan as well for being here this morning. Okay, so a substantial energy rate rise in the last 2 years has put a large pressure on budgets, departmental budgets. And during 2023 to 2024, the Public Street Lighting Department highlighted 3 potential energy saving strategies to limit the overspend. 3-watt trimming of power levels was applied to every streetlight column, and following Cabinet approval on the 22nd of March 2024, 25% dimming was implemented across 10,000 LED lanterns. Prior to Cabinet approval of 25% dimming, a public consultation was then undertaken alongside a successful trial in 2024. The third option of part night lighting was postponed pending a pilot study to gain a better understanding of the impacts of such saving strategies and thereby to enable evidence-based decisions to be made in the future if need be. Prior to a trial taking place, the scrutiny requested to the Cabinet Board, of which was supported and agreed that a further report containing details such as geographical locations, duration of the trial period, and the off and on times of the lanterns, which is presented today. For an example, on the 22nd of March, one of the concerns raised by one of the members, Councillor Wood, who's here in the chamber with us this morning, advocated concerns around turning street lighting off at 9 p.m. in the evening, which could impact the vulnerability of women and girls. And based on that example, you will see before us in the report today that we've taken that on board, and you can quite clearly see that the timing in reflection of the concerns that was raised on the 22nd of March is different to what the proposals are to go before the wider cabinet in due course. It was also stated that the consultation be undertaken as part of a pilot study prior to the commencement of the trial, and shall include an assessment of impact upon women and young girls in terms of violence, domestic abuse and sexual violence. And I'm pleased to confirm, and I'm sure officers will in due course as well, that sort of study and consultation with them partners has commenced. The proposed part night lighting pilot, if approved by the Cabinet in due course, will run for a duration of November, which includes in its totality of 133 lanterns over 7 locations, which you will see in Appendix A. The lanterns will be switched off between the hours of 1 a.m. and 5 a.m. and following completions of the pilot, results and feedback from stakeholders will be gathered ready for any future discussions or any larger trial based. It's proposed that as part of the consultation process that agencies and affected residents will be informed prior to the start of the pilot scheme. As this subject is to be scrutinised now, 7 weeks prior to a final cabinet decision, councillors' feedback and members of this scrutiny committee will be taken away and considered as we did previously and as I did previously as part of the finalised report due in September. Thanks very much, Chair.
Thank you very much for that, Councillor Jones. Would any officers like to add anything to the report, please?
Only from the purpose of it's been a difficult one, I think, for us as officers to locate the locations, and I think it's something that we're obviously it's a sensitive issue. It's something that has to be done as a part of the trial, and again, just to really back up what Councillor Jones have said, this could be the sort of prequel to a further trial at a later date of more lighting switch-offs, and that will obviously incur further consultation. We have also as well arranged meetings with a local a group, Thrive. Our first meeting with them will commence next Friday, and we have been in discussions with the community safety team, which have provided us with antisocial behaviour hotspots, and we've tried to keep away from those for the trial purposes. Obviously, going forward, if a further trial and a larger trial was deemed appropriate, I think then it would be far more widespread, because as Councillor Jones has already stated, we're talking about 133 lights. There's probably on average 19 lights per location. And I would have thought that nobody would want their lights switched off. So it is obviously very difficult for us to choose these localities, and we've tried to do it honestly and openly with a good heart and without any intervention from anybody.
Thank you for that, Steve. Much appreciated. Before I go to questions now, I have one question I need to ask from Councillor Percy. And it is, members suggested that the trial should be done in some very rural areas to get a proper reflection. How will it affect these those areas?
I think looking at the locations that we've got in the appendix, I think that it's from my perspective, you know, I think that we got Wanka-Gerwen, and I think we've got Alltwen. We've had some conversations with the police, And what we've tried to do is to make this probably more of a worthwhile trial, is try to look at more urban areas rather than rural areas, because we believe that in the first instance, there potentially could be more problems with those localities than the rural ones. I hope that sort of answers that question.
Okay, thanks, Steve. Right, we'll go to members' questions now. Laura?
Mine was quite similar. I've got two questions. Thanks, Chair. Mine was quite similar to Sean's. I still repeat it though. So there appears to be
Laura, can I just interrupt you a minute? We just
Yeah.
got a bit of a technical problem a minute. I'll fit you back in now.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, Councillor Williams. If you'd like to try again, I think that hopefully should have resolved the issue.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you. So my first question was similar to Councillor Percy's. So there appears to be only one Valleys community included. How will this produce a geographical spread view of the authority of 34
Sorry,
wards?
Laura. We
Yeah.
just need to sort something out there. You're coming over very distorted this side.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, Councillor Williams. Would you mind just reading that out again for us?
Yeah. Can you hear me clearly now? So there appears to be only one Valleys community included. How will this produce a geographical spread of the authority of 34 wards when there's mainly urban areas chosen? Is that okay?
It's the chamber. The chamber seems to have a bit of a muffle to it when you're speaking. I'm not quite sure what the issue is there. I think we did kind of get it, so I do apologise. It's probably more our end than anything you're doing. I don't know if you could hear that well enough, Steve.
Yeah,
Can I just add on my second part to that question? Sorry, because I'll continue. So also, are you aware location 5 or 6 are within the same ward, Amalgam and Talbot, and is there any reason behind this?
Okay, thank you very much for that, Councillor Williams. From our side of things, obviously, as officers, as I said earlier, we've been in consultation with the police. They indicated through discussions that there was more likelihood maybe of problems associated with the urban areas. And obviously there are a lot more lights within the, in the rural areas. There are more lights to be switched off in the urban areas. And as a consequence, that's what the officers have decided, based on an even split throughout the county borough. With regards to the scenario of the two areas in Margam, again, it's just an officer decision. There's been no reason other than we feel that that it's the right thing to do at that particular location.
Okay, thank you. And then my second one was around crime rates. So where was the data established from the to establish the crime rates? And by choosing low crime areas, does this mean there is no confidence in the policy? And if implemented in full, that we could be putting the safety of our residents at risk?
I think, Councillor Williams, I think as officers, obviously, we wouldn't want to put anybody at risk. I think that the trial has to be placed at certain locations throughout the county borough. We are in consultation with our community safety team. We will be in communication with Thrive. As I said, it's less than 1% of the lights within the authority, and for a trial to take place, it has to take place at some locations. I think what will happen is the outcome of the trial and the information that we'll get from the trial will obviously factor into what happens next. And I think that it's due obviously to commence in November. The beauty of these scrutiny meetings, I think, prior to board, is that we've got 7 weeks to sort of get certain things more robust in line with your questioning, and try to come back to the committee in September with maybe some details of the consultations that we've taken place.
Thank you. Can I just come back on the Margam Ty Bach issue? I'm aware that I am the ward councillor. Regarding one of the areas, which is the sorry, my document's just closed. Location 6, which is Closterwyn. Has any other factors been taken into consideration? Because this cul-de-sac particularly has quite an elderly demographic where a lot of outreach and ambulances do attend, so how that could impact those residents if there is no lighting during their most vulnerable hours of the evening.
Councillor Williams, thank you for your representations on that. Personally, I wasn't aware of that, and obviously local knowledge is important as a consequence of that. Obviously, maybe between now and September, we can have some feedback and we may be able to tweak the appendix slightly.
Thank you very much. That'd be great if I could feed that back. Thank you.
Okay, Laura, are you happy with that? Yeah.
Yeah, that's it for me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next member, Ros Davis, Councillor Davis.
I've had the reply that I asked yesterday regarding they are going to be consulting with the residents in question.
Okay, lovely. Thank you very much for that. Cathy Davis, Councillor Davis. Sorry, Councillor James, please.
Thanks, Chair. My question really following on from Ros's is around the consultation. I just wondered if we could have more detail in terms of how residents will be contacted and what form we're going to be collecting the feedback from them.
Yeah, it's our intention to obviously letter drop all of the residents to inform them of the proposals. There will be information on the letter with regards to feedback, so how they can feedback in. And if necessary, obviously there'll be face-to-face discussions with them.
Thanks.
Okay with that, Cathy? Thank you. And in the chamber now, Councillor Wood.
Thanks, Chair. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 questions. You want to take them individually? Oh, right, okay. The first question, and just coming on the back of what Cathy and Ros have said there, I've already consulted with some residents on this myself, as I do all the time, speak to them. And some of the feedback has helped me to put these questions together. The first one, will residents affected have a discount on their council tax as they're having a reduction in service?
I would not have thought so.
Okay, just obviously I can feed back on that to them. Who will be monitoring the effect of the trial, and what is in place if necessary for it to be halted if bad weather does occur leading to an accident or anything such as in the trial areas?
Like everything, it's once these potential switch-offs become a reality. We're obviously in discussion with South Wales Police. We'll be in discussion with our community safety team and Thrive. That'll be an ongoing process. A lot of the areas that have been chosen are not high-speed roads. Everything's 20 mile an hour currently. And if it needs to be stopped, it will be stopped. I think, we're all realistic enough to understand that sometimes things crop up in particular areas. It could be a crime that has happened, or it could be anything that has happened in that locality. And switching the lights off for a period of time, even though it's a short period of time, it's going to be very hard in some respects for us as officers to understand whether it's as a consequence of the light switch off or whether it would have happened anyway. So I think what we're trying to say is that we're going to have close consultation with all of the people, with the people living there, with the police, with community safety, and Thrive, the local organisation, throughout the process. If anything needs to be done, it'll be done, and we'll report back as necessary then at the end of the trial.
Thanks for that reply. Just as a supplementary, I mean, obviously the trial is in November, and there are concerns that bad weather can occur in November. You've got ice, possibility of snow, and a lot of the residents are concerned about that, dimming the lights when in November, which could be an issue. I'll move on to the next question anyway. Will there be a fund set up for victims of any consequences of the council's actions in relation to these trials?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Okay, thank you. And I've got another question then, which is for the cabinet member as opposed to the officer there. Is this a case of the council playing Russian roulette with the lives of residents to save money? And it doesn't bode well when the residents of Godregraig are looking for a new school and we're in the process of switching lights off up in that village to save money. Thanks.
Is that okay to come back, Chair? Yeah, okay. I suppose really the answer to that is, quite openly, transparently this is to do with money. And it's been very, very clear from day one that this is part of a savings exercise. I mean, I would much rather be spending my time here today, working with the Scrutiny Committee, looking at ways of how we can improve the quality of services, as opposed to be spending time of what needs to be cut across the authority. I'm very mindful that there's recently been a change in government, and I hope that at this stage in time, not expecting miracles within a matter of weeks, but I hope that between now and the next budget settlement, that the public sector, councils across Wales, will receive the investment that they need. And therefore, maybe we'll be having different discussions in scrutiny meetings going forward. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you both. Councillor, were you happy with the responses?
Yeah, ask me then, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you both. We got one more member, Councillor Clement Williams.
Thanks, Chair. Sorry, I couldn't come to the scrutiny meeting. And forgive me if it's in there, but I didn't see it. Excuse me. How much work has been done with other councils who have trialled this, e.g. Powys, and what feedback have they had, and how has that affected our plan? Thank you.
Consultation has commenced prior to the board meeting in September with local authorities throughout Wales. We're waiting on information to come in on that. A lot of it, to be honest with you, and as you can see today, we've got the flood risk management plan next. We've been delivering the capital works programme. There does seem to be quite a high level of activity with and delivering projects as well. So me being new to the lighting section, taking over management in April, I would say that it's probably been something, knowing that we've got another 8 weeks to go until the finalised board report, that I've been probably a little bit slow on Councillor Clement Williams. So we will have a lot more information by the board meeting in September. I hope that helps you.
Thanks, Chair. If I could just come back on that. My point really would be, Steve, let's not reinvent the wheel and learn from others' mistakes. So I appreciate that response. So thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. I can't see any more questions, so we'll move on. Oh, sorry. Councillor Laura Williams. Oh, sorry, Councillor Williams, I didn't see the hand up there. If you'd like to come back in.
That's okay, Chair. Is there any chance that Rosalind could ask her question? Because we haven't heard the answer that she's had. I think it was around how the public were how we were getting feedback from the public, if I'm correct.
Yeah, I can ask her to ask a question, and now we can give you some feedback on that.
Thank you.
Ros, could you ask the question and just tell us what answer you've had to it, please?
I asked regarding consultation with the residents. I haven't had any feedback personally.
Oh, right, your question had been answered in committee then, yeah?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Laura, are you okay with that?
Yeah, can we have a little bit extra information of how are we interacting with the residents in these areas at the end of the trial or during the trial, and how essentially would that then be presented to us as a committee, if I can
Right,
ask that.
I allow this question now, and then we need to move on because I think officers and cabinet members have answered most of the questions to these. So officer will answer this and then we'll move on, please.
Councillor Williams, apologies. I thought that I'd answer the question earlier, but basically, obviously, a letter is going to be written after today's meeting to all of the residents within the areas concerned. Obviously, we'll need a catch up on the issue that you raised prior to letters going out to that locality. What will be on that letter is obviously the information telling the residents of what is intended in November and the hours that the switch off will take place. There will be contact details on the letter so that residents are able to get in touch with us direct if necessary. And I think what I said earlier was that we'd also look at going forward, if residents wanted to meet us face to face, we would sit down and have a chat with them to try to sort of alleviate any fears that they've got. And again, I suppose tagging on to what Councillor Wood stated earlier, if there was a need at any time during the trial for it to be ceased, and there was good reason for it to be for the lights to be switched back on at those hours, we would obviously look at that and debate that and discuss it with local members as well prior to any actions being taken.
That's brilliant. Thank you for letting me come in, and thank you for the clarification. That's great. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, everybody. Right, the recommendations are listed on page 73 of the agenda pack. I am happy to propose. Can I have a seconder, please?
I'll second that, Chair.
Thank you. Yeah. If members do not indicate to the contrary, then I will take it that this report is approved. Okay, Councillor.
I oppose, Chair.
You opposed? Thank you.
I see no other opposition to this, Chair. Therefore, this item has been approved.
Right, the next item, item 5B, flood risk management. Would officers or the cabinet member like to add anything to this report, please? Councillor Jones.
Thank you very much, Chair. The Council, acting as a lead local flood authority for the region, has a statutory duty to produce and develop a local flood risk management strategy and plan, as stipulated under the Flood and Water Management Act 2010. We published our first local strategy in 2014, setting out the overarching approach to managing local flood risk. Alongside our local strategy, we published a flood risk management plan in 2015. Our flood risk management plan developed the objectives, measures and actions outlined in the local strategy into a more detailed plan for managing flooding in our communities based on political wards. This document is our second local strategy, and whilst we previously published our local strategy separately, this new local strategy and plan integrates the two documents into one, reducing the complexity and duplication. This document will work alongside other strategic plans for shoreline management, infrastructure and planning, and to set out the direction we want to take it. In the document, we explain how flooding will be managed across the local authority area, consistent with the objectives, measures and related policies and legislation set out in the national strategies. We have written this document in a way that it's usable and referable for both the wider public and flood risk practitioners. It is our intention that the strategy and the plan will be reviewed every 2 years, and the action plan will be updated accordingly. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Scott. Do any officers have anything to add to the report, please?
Only that, obviously this is a very important area as far as we're concerned within highways and drainage. A lot of investment has gone in with regards to the authority in staffing and forward planning through succession planning. We are in discussions with Welsh Government on a regular basis. We currently have a 10-year pipeline planned for schemes throughout the county borough based on need. They are a total value of 35 million. They are solely dependent on Welsh Government funding because currently in our capital budget, we only have an allocation and have only had an allocation for the last 10 years of £300,000 per year, which has obviously been eroded by inflation over a period of time. We feel that we are at the forefront of flood risk in Wales and maybe in the UK. We have a great team of individuals and we're building for the future, but a lot of it will depend on grant funding going forward. We've undertaken large amount of works throughout the county borough, and obviously while Welsh Government supplies 85% of the funding, 15% of the funding has to be found internally by the local authority. So based on the 35 million that I mentioned, obviously we're talking around 5.1 that the authority will have to find over the next 10 years. And I put a rider on that that is obviously down to inflation. So that is as it was when we last priced the works up. And basically, I think that we're in a far better position today for flood risk than we were years ago. Out of interest as well, I think, which is important, that we have around about 65,000 properties within the authority. There is a potential flood risk to around about 24,500 properties within the authority from different means. Some of them are maybe higher risk than others, but that can be from river, that can be from mountain, that can be from various elements. And of course, the hydrology associated with sewerage at the moment is very capacity led. So obviously through sustainable urban and drainage systems, we're trying to take water out of our main drainage systems, because people will say that their drains are blocked, but it's just a capacity issue. And I always use the reference around that is that if you've got more water going into the bath than will get out of your overflow, then the bath will overflow. So, and that's what the pipes are at the moment. So sometimes flood risk can be many factors, but it's important, especially with increased rainfall and periods of drought in between, where the ground can't necessarily take the water when it comes back to having heavy rainfall as well. So I'm open to questions on the plan. The reason for the plan, sorry, or giving you the plan in advance, is obviously if there's anything that you feel that needs to be added, taken away, or challenged. The plan is a good plan. It's a comprehensive plan. It's a working document. We should be able to work off that document and update it on a regular basis so that everybody is aware of what's going on. But there's a lot of hard work going on by the officers behind the scenes as well, as in lighting and in other areas of street care as well, as you probably know. But I'm open to questions.
Okay, thank you both for that. Before I fetch members in, I have one question from Councillor Sean Percy. So I'll take that first. The actions that are listed are reliant on the Welsh Government and internal funding, but it doesn't say if these are aspirational projects or deliverable projects that have had funding already identified for.
Our 10-year action plan has been, in theory, agreed by Welsh Government. Obviously, they're not aspirational plans. They should be able to be delivered as long as the funding streams continue. If the funding streams do not continue, they will be aspirational for obvious reasons, because there's such large figures involved with the schemes itself. To give you an example, there was one scheme that was proposed to go on to a full business case this year, which was pulled by Welsh Government. Well, it wasn't pulled, we didn't receive the funding for it, so that's been put back onto the plan for next year. So it's an incremental thing that comes about as associated with budgets from Welsh Government as well.
Okay, thank you for that, Steve. I fetch members in now. Councillor Wood.
Thanks, Chair. I mean, my question is slightly parochial in that I am the councillor for the ward, the issue I speak of. And I know, as I say, we allude to coastal protection in the flood risk plan. And back in 2018-19, we were able to secure funding to help protect the seawall. And we had a ramp built, a service ramp as well. But I just want to raise the point that where the seawall ends, the erosion at the side of the seawall has continued quite severely in recent times, and with the likelihood of sea levels rising and the erosion continuing, I just want to see that have we got a specific plan in place with NRW and Welsh Government that we could push to try and bring in funding to extend the promenade, or at least extend the sea defences from where it ends now to the possibility of bringing it over as far as what is termed as the Naval Club, because there are large dunes beyond them that seem to protect themselves. But this is an ongoing issue, and the erosion is continuing quite at pace. So I'd like to see that, you know, we're at least trying to pull in funding to increase our coastal defences. Thanks, Chair.
It is on our radar. Obviously, there's a hold the line strategy which is associated with the seafront as it is the promenade. There's a natural management which is associated with the rest of the seafront, which is basically it erodes over a period of time. We are aware that obviously Scarlet Avenue would be impacted. So representations will be made to Welsh Government on that. However, funding streams have ceased in that particular area for now, and have not been available since 2019. So again, a lot of it will come down to whether Welsh Government funding is available to undertake further works. It might not be as the promenade is. It may be block stone or other methods, because obviously the authority would be responsible for maintenance of everything after that. So it is on the radar. But again, I think Welsh Government are trying to balance coastal erosion and flood risk from a multitude of areas. So you know, we will keep up the pressure on them, but there is no funding available currently for that.
Thanks.
You happy with that, Rob? Yep. Okay, thank you. Right, next one now, member is Cathy.
Thanks, Tim. I've got a couple of questions around funding, one of which has already been answered, actually, so thank you for that. I was picking up on page 211. It says that significant additional internal funding is required for this plan. I assume that's the 35 million which you just mentioned. But
no,
I think...
Oh, sorry. Just to clarify that, apologies for interrupting. I think on that one, it's £35 million is the investment required to undertake the schemes over the next 10 years. Currently, the authority needs to find 15% of the 35 million, which I think is around what, £5.1 million over that period. We've had discussions with finance on that, with who has provisions in the budget for that currently. Obviously, that's up for members to decide at budget rounds whether that be made available. But obviously we need, as an authority, to supply 15% towards the 85% the Welsh Government will give us to make it a feasible construction.
Okay, thanks. I do think it would be useful to have this clarified in the report. As a broad point, there is a lack of detail in terms of how much things are going to cost and where the money is going to come from. So I think it would be useful to have more information like that. And in addition, I think it would be beneficial if we can, as well as looking at what all of these schemes cost, if we can have some sort of idea of the costs of not carrying out the schemes. So what would be the likely costs of businesses being flooded, of households being flooded, other damage? I think because we are very much, obviously from what you've been saying, we're going to be fighting for funding for this. So I think it's really important to be able to put a financial, to put a number on this to say, okay, it is going to cost 35 million, but it will save us whatever. And I'm sure this is work that has been done in the background, just like the work on the further funding, but I think it would be beneficial to bring some of this into the actual report as well. My only other point, just a minor one, on the flood revenue grant, the fact that that money is going to be subsumed into the RSG. It says in the report that it's hoped that we'll still get the same level of funding. I just wondered how realistic a hope that was once the money's disappeared into a pot. Thanks.
It was, I will say, it was a concern for us as well initially, but we have been assured that the money that's gone into the RSG will remain within the Highways and Drainage Services budget to take us forward.
Just one on that, Steve. What would be the problems of putting everything into a report for, what it would cost for flooding?
I think we've got a broad outline of the schemes, because obviously we've got priorities that we believe, based on documentation and calculations made by our team on potential flood risk within the authority. And obviously those are based on a 1 in 30 flood, a 1 in 100 flood, and a 1 in 1,000 year flood. The calculation based on cost is a very difficult one, because how do you put a cost to flooding in a community? Because it's not just financial, it's obviously the impact that it has on the social aspects of it. People have to move out of houses and etc. But I think what would be useful is, and I'm happy to do this, is that we include as an appendix what our 10-year pipeline it looks like, and what the associated costs are, because it does set out in quite, because it's not a case of us just going to Welsh Government and saying, can we have so much for a scheme? We have to do an outline business case, we have to do a full business case, then we have to do another report which gets us to funding. And these can take years, because what we have to do is we've got a team of associates, Atkins, that we use currently, who are a consultancy firm based in Swansea. I think they're a UK-wide consultancy anyway. And they are what we are looking at. One of the things that the plan has changed from, rather than look at it in political areas, what we've decided to do is to look at it in catchments, because catchments is what makes sense. It rains up in the Kimler and it ends up down at the sea just outside Britain Ferry. So we've got to look at all of the wards and all of the communities that it impacts on the way down, whether there's enough resilience in the grids or channels that we have there. And we have to apply then obviously these calculations based on those flooding, because the 1 in 30 is coming quite regular. The 1 in 100 is becoming more prevalent as well. And I always say this, that if we have continuous rain over a period of time, even if it may be heavy rain, we're not too bothered about that. But we're seeing a lot more flash flooding, which puts a strain on all drainage systems, wherever they may be. And we get runoff in places. We're seeing underground water where we've never seen it before. So I think what I'm trying to say is I think it would be difficult for us to put a price on what you're saying, because to follow the line would be an immense piece of work for us. However, I think it would be useful for you to understand what we're trying to do over the next 10 years. And every year that's updated. So, we've already done 3 years of it and had some success. And I think that we've already delivered projects of over £3 million in localities. But over the next 10 years, we'll deliver larger schemes in some places. And there will be some inconvenience to people by doing these schemes, because but the benefits it will bring long term will be immense to the locality and to the catchment as well, So I hope that makes sense as well.
Yeah, that's great. Kathy, you happy with that?
Yeah, that's great, thanks. And I think having that additional information in an appendix, I think that would be really useful. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Dave?
Sorry, Dave, I think you're still on mute there.
Sorry, someone's got to do it, haven't they? Apologies all. No, just to echo Steve's comments really around the business case for investment in flood protection schemes, and picking up on Kathy's point about the cost impacts if we weren't to do the protective measures. I know that on the seafront coastal protection scheme, that the consultants had to, it's more about the cost and value, the assets protected, as opposed to impacts. Obviously, Steve touched on the social aspects. Generally, if the flooding took place, the consequences would far outweigh that capital investment, with damage to property and all of the social aspects associated with people having to move. So I think it's fair to say, without doing the mitigation works, the costs would be massive compared to the capital investment. And then obviously the 10-year program that Steve's got, every local authority has got a set of schemes as well. And as part of that sort of cost benefit analysis, Welsh Government tend to take a prioritisation view on whereas they, all of them are important, but for example, the Sandfields area where you have 6,500 properties affected, clearly that was a major impact, and that scheme got quite close to the top of the investment being made available. So it's about value of assets protected as opposed to consequential cost impacts, but they would be huge. Thanks.
Okay, thank you very much for that. I can't see any more questions from members. I'd like to thank Cabinet member and officers for the report this morning, and I'd like to take forward the recommendations listed on page 84 of the agenda pack. I'm happy to propose. Can I have a seconder, please?
I second, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Wood. If members do not indicate to the contrary, then I will take it that this decision is supported to Cabinet.
I see no indications to the contrary, Chair. Therefore, this decision is supported.
Okay, thank you very much. We move on.
Chair.
Sorry.
Apologies, I missed coming in before the recommendation. It's only feedback, that's all. I've sat in on quite a few of the meetings on the future of the issues of the flooding, along with officers, and it is frightening. So to see that we've got such a robust plan with everything in place, in process, ready to apply for the funding. So the only restriction on the works for us to protect the area and the borough is Welsh Government funding. So, you know, we obviously need to lobby and help our officers to try to achieve that funding. Thank you. The last thing as well is, I know Councillor Wood mentioned the seafront. We've also got to take into consideration that obviously beyond the Naval Club and over is the old BP site, which is now Welsh Government land, which is earmarked possibly for Freeport and development. So obviously we need to raise the protection there, otherwise that land will be unusable, and that's going to be a huge loss to the area for regen as well. So thank you. Thanks, Chair. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Hurley. Right, we move on to part 2, item 6. Consider items from the scrutiny work programme, forward work programme. We have no items. Part 3, item 7, performance monitoring. There are no performance monitoring reports on this occasion. Part 4, item 8, selection of items for future scrutiny. Members will now look at the Cabinet and Scrutiny Forward Work Programme and discuss any items we may wish to add to the Forward Work Programme. Tom, to explain, please.
Hi, members. So on this, obviously, there's a new structure to how we do these meetings. So this item is just basically the Forward Work Programme section where you can select items for the future. As we mentioned in pre-briefing, there was a slight change. So originally we had the Viva Talbot report that was due to come to this meeting, but as explained in pre-briefing, that report had to get split in two for administrative reasons. So the report that we would have basically just related to getting the elections team to do the ballot itself, which is not something that the scrutiny committee decided that they felt they could add any value to. So the sort of second report is due to go to Cabinet, I believe, on the 28th of, I want to say October. Yeah, it is October. And 23rd of October, sorry. And the committee indicated that they would like to have that report, and the date suggested for that is the 20th September. So it just might be a good opportunity to ask if there are any officers present that would fall under. I think Simon possibly, just if that's okay, and then we can make Jane aware of that for the Forward Work Programme, just so everyone's aware of that. But other than that, there's nothing else I would need to add.
Okay, thank you, Tom. Do any members have any requests or questions on this, please? No, I can't see any. Right, so we'll move on. Item 13, urgent items. I have none. So I'd like to fetch this meeting to a close and thank everybody for the attendance this morning, and thank all the officers and Cabinet members. Thank you.